Okay, Mikail. Let's talk. We're going to talk first about AIMEE Victoria, just because that was the order that I believe that you worked together first on that one. So this is the film that you met on. Mikail, you were writer and producer. What was the inspiration behind that film? Obviously, it was, I guess, created in lockdown, shot in lockdown. I'll come to that as well. But so what was the inspiration behind making the film?
Yeah, so the film AIMEE Victoria started actually as an episode of a short form series. So when lockdown happened, as everybody remembers, it was around March 2020, and I was living in DC at the time, and I had a feature film that was in early stage of development, with initial money, and we actually had the table read with an audience right the last Saturday before lockdown. So there's an entire 30 people who lost their last Saturday night of freedom to watch my second draft script being performed by some actors, and they will never forgive me ever again for that. And so when it all went on hold, I decided just really wanted to try and make something anyway. And cutting a long story short, I'd been hired as an actor for a theatre play in DC, which then moved online very quickly when lockdown happened, because the theatre shut the week we were supposed to start rehearsals. So I thought we could try this as a series, because I wanted to give as many people as possible a chance to kind of keep their IMDb credits up, keep things developed. So it started off as a short form series, and we brought in, because nobody was working at all at the time, we had the most incredible people who were just available and free to advise us. And it ended up being, we'll use an iPhone on it, but we'll use an app called Filmic Pro, and then we'll create a camera package and we'll send it. Created a writer's room around the world. We had people in eight countries, 28 cities involved in it, spread across. And AIMEE Victoria was the third episode. And when we finished it, it was by far and away the most popular. And my wife, who once again is much smarter than I am, said, you should do this as a short film and then put it out there, because that is probably a better way to get sort of attention for things. So the web series, or the short form series, each 7 episodes to it, that's still there. We've actually got a distributor interested, but we're holding it back until we finish the run of AIMEE Victoria to do that. So that's how it worked. And casting Natasha and Stephanie as well, who was in it brilliantly. For any I say this many times, but for any producers, anybody who is working on projects, finding disabled cast members who are brilliant and have a lot of experience and background is, honestly, it was the easiest piece of the entire thing, because lots of people are like, I've never worked with deaf people before, I don't have any deaf family or relatives on it, but it was the easiest. We reached out. There's an agent that has a lot of these actors on the books. We reached out to Natasha and Stephanie. Both of them said yes, crazily, because I guess they had nothing else going on at the time. And then and they were amazing to work with. So that's how it kind of built up from there.
Amazing, thank you. So the short form series, can we still catch that, or do we need to wait for it to go on?
We haven't released it yet, because we're deciding whether we're going to put it on a festival run of its own first of all.
Okay.
And we also have a distributor that's interested in it, so we can't put it on YouTube and stuff. Okay. Like that. I'm happy to send you a private screen if you would.
So it was entirely shot in lockdown, and I mean, just the whole thing was shot on an iPhone, which just blows my mind. I don't even know where to start unpacking that. That's amazing. But so no one met in the real. Talk us through that process. How hard was that?
It wasn't easy, I'll be honest. It wasn't. No, it was. So yeah, it was very hard, but not as hard as you might have thought, because everybody, I try very hard only to work with the really brilliant people who are better than me, which actually is quite a low bar to that. But I work with like much better people than me who also are really just nice and passionate about what it is. So when we approached everyone, I'm very transparent about it. I said, look, I've got this. I literally had an email titled Bonkers Idea. I said, I've got this bonkers idea. This is what we're going to do. Are you interested? This is what I can give you. That's what we can't give you. That's what we have. So everyone involved knew what they were getting into. Everyone was on board for it. And I can say it now, it's all done. I did not know if it was going to work until it was completely finished. So when we shot that, again, the same thing with AIMEE Victoria, is I would have loved the story to have a lot more. I've got a whole outline for a lot more to it and stuff, but we kept it as simple as possible to be, at least we know we can get it made. And a big credit to Matt Reinig, who is Natasha's husband, and also to Krzysztof Litomski, who is Stephanie's now fiance, and to Steve, who is Doris Morgado's husband. They all had to do the camera work. None of them have been in film. None of them work in film or theatre. They didn't know beforehand how to do it. Our DP/tech advisor, online, sort of gave them advice. We created our own little PDF of basic guidance and stuff, how to get started, and then he would tell them how to set up.
PDF, please?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Happy to share
Just
it.
letting you know, it is an actual PDF.
It is.
It's a real one. It's a PDF.
I made that PDF. I was very proud of that PDF. It was. It took me far longer than any normal person should have spent on it. But so we put it together, and these guys were incredible to work with, because they really spent and we shot the whole thing. That whole film was actually in 3 days. The whole thing we shot, and with all the different people. Of course, none of the actors got to meet, so we had to direct them. We had brilliant director Christy, who, by the way, actually just won an award for Best Director for that film, which was great at Long Beach, so we're very pleased about that. And yeah, really it was down to that.
Well, on that note then, so Natasha, considering you couldn't meet the other actress in the reel, because I think you had such a great chemistry, I'm sure everyone will agree, so how did you create that chemistry, actually never managing to be in a room together?
Well, I actually do know her. I know the actress.
Okay.
So I do know her personality, and we are personal friends. So as an actor, I didn't know what she would be doing, but we worked with the director and the three of us, and during rehearsals, we had rehearsals in advance, and we got the sense of what the script would be about. We got the themes, we got the feelings and the story with the emotions, and it seemed to be that we fed off that, and really it just came out and it emerged and it worked. The director was brilliant, and she really pulled it all out of it, Storm. So she, I would do it again in a heartbeat. But she was like, "Oh, come on, you've got this." It all went fine. And so then we do it again in this way. And so the director was fantastic, and that was a really valuable thing for us actors. And Stephanie's a brilliant actress herself. So really, it was really a wonderful collaboration. Really, this project was one of the best projects that I've worked on, because even with the challenges, everything worked so easily. It was seamless. It was smoothless. Everyone was open-minded, open-hearted, and understanding. The patience was incredible. The language used of the actors and the hearing people, it was incredible. And now you can see the result of that. It was really brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, so much of it, isn't it, is about getting that team together that are supportive and up for it and just, mucking in. Yeah, I think the team is everything, isn't it? I'm just going to consult my notes. Okay, yeah, so this is one of the first films that features two deaf women in a relationship. So, I mean, why, firstly? But but secondly, how important is it that you tell these stories and that representation is happening? Just sort of talk to us about your feelings about that, both of you.
Not only United States, but all over the world with deaf talent, you always see one person on the screen. And it's outdated representation. We have more than one deaf person that can be on screen. And I'm really happy that Mikail wrote in two deaf characters for this. So we can see their relationship, and not just as a deaf person, but who they are as a relationship as a woman. And that's really important. We need to put aside everything being about the disability. Yes, disabled people do, but they have their own stories. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more deaf and disabled, not just one or two or even three or even four or even five, as many as we can have on the screen. And I think that would enable and show real representation. And I want to thank Mikail for the opportunity for writing two deaf characters into the film.
Yeah, no, it was, So I've been trying. I started off doing theatre stuff when I was. I should explain. I didn't go to film school or to drama school or anything. I studied law. But when I was doing that, then and I didn't study very hard, so I had time to go and do theatre stuff. And so I was. I went and got into that, and then when I got into film, when I first made my first film, everything I did, I always try to put kind of diversity at the forefront. Not, and this is quite a long time ago, but not as a tokenistic thing. Just because I didn't see the world around me reflected around me. My groups of friends were very diverse, even if, it's not that they've always been consistently one sort of type of diversity, but I always had a lot of male and female friends equally, so I never understood why you wouldn't have more than one woman in a film or a story and stuff like that. And it used to be much harder to get anything like that made. And And so when we had the chance to do this, there's an advantage to making something yourself, especially when you don't really have any money, and therefore you don't owe anything to anyone else around it. You can make all the rules. So I went into it. We actually created we went from the idea to lock scripts in 3 weeks for all 7 episodes of the series, which is an insanely quick time. So I wrote an outline for each of the episodes. I created the characters, and I created the way they all interact. And in the series, what we do is for this the film, we took away some bits from the series, and we took some scenes from other episodes, and put them into that film to make it a bit more whole. But the reason why I did it is I went and set some rules at the beginning, which was I went and said that unless they had to be for the character, I wanted them to be people of color. Where we had deaf characters, I insisted that we would cast deaf people for it. AIMEE started off as a character first of all, purely because I was putting together a group of friends and thinking, what representation do you not see on screen? And I thought, well, I haven't really seen deaf representation on there. And then the whole episode was about communication with these people, kind of separated from each other. So it made sense to bring that thing into it, which then I wrote and created. And why is AIMEE, why are they gay? Honestly, they just were. There wasn't, it sounds pretentious to say, but writers of the room will understand. I don't sit there and go, so I'm going to crowbar a thing into an episode, but when the character just happens to be that way and then their conduct is that way, then that's what it is. And I think for representation, the way to do it authentically where you can is, I didn't go and say that AIMEE had to be black, but I knew that she would be a woman of color, and the same thing as Victoria, because the way they react to each other, the way that AIMEE handles some of the situations and things, is partly due to some of the experience that she would have faced in that. And then for the director, to add that up, we had director Christy Farris, who's a black actress, very well known in America. She's been working for 20 years. She's been in Scrubs and Goliath and all sorts of things. And this was her directorial debut, in fact, which I sort of half had to convince her to go and do. And I've told her she must never, ever talk her way out of a job ever again. But she was brilliant. Again, she brought a whole different side to it. If I directed this episode, I wouldn't have got the same performance out of Natasha and Stephanie, because she approached them with this idea of saying, well, this is who you are and this is what the background is. So that's
brilliant. And I'm going to change the subject ever so slightly onto, I loved that you had the relay shown in the film. So kind of on that sort of question of representation and sort of awareness. See, we're all at Hot Cause, we're all about sort of spreading awareness and normalising deaf and disabled actors on screen, normalising the kind of adjustments that we have, normalising subtitles, all that. So was it a kind of conscious decision that you wanted to show those kind of things, those adjustments in the film?
Yeah, it was. And I have to give major credit to the co-writer, Hannah Harmison. So Hannah is, she's hearing, but she knows ASL. She's very connected to the deaf community, and she also identifies as queer. And so she brought a fantastic element to it. I think in the outline, I had the concept that there would be a VRS conversation, because I'd researched and said, how did these conversations happen? Hannah actually played the interpreter in the film. I convinced her to do that, because I thought it'd be a cool little thing. So she did that. She did a great job on it. But yeah, that's really where it came from. We wanted to bring that out. In the series, you actually see AIMEE interacting with 5 other hearing people on a big Zoom call, and we used the closed captioning, which is the way that the systems actually work in real life to do that. But I should add, when we took it, we also ran it past Stephanie and Natasha and said, are you okay with this? Does it all make sense? Does it seem correct? Does it seem authentic? Is there anything that needs to be changed? Because obviously we also wanted to make sure they were happy with it.
Of course. Yeah, and like the 3 rocks, I love that so much. Go on.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Well,
that was brilliant
Credit to
writing.
Hannah. That was Hannah's line. I wish I could take that one, but Hannah nailed that one.
What else have I got? Okay, so we're going to talk about the multi now. So we're going to talk about the second film. So then after AIMEE and Victoria, you got together to make this film written by Natasha. Natasha, tell us the inspiration behind the story for you and why it was important for you to tackle such a powerful, important subject.
Why I wrote that script it started with a relationship with mental health, especially with Black deaf women, because Black deaf women, have a tendency to have depression and not talk about mental health. And typically, the society looking at Black deaf women forces us to suppress or forces us to not be have those things be a part of our life, and we have that link to suicide and depression. And so I've talked about this through therapy as well. So I want to be able to express that pain, that trauma, on the screen, and make mental health a normal conversation. Make it normalized for us to have a discussion about that, especially being Black. You don't see that anywhere on screen, especially with Black people, especially with Black deaf people. All of these intersecting layers, this intersectionality has to be on screen. And so that was my inspiration. And what started as a script, I had three multiple people, and which we then reduced to 2. And the challenge became that my friend, who was the director, had a challenge, expanding the story a little bit. So we had to add the sister, the Black deaf sister. So their relationship had to be between them as well. And that was different, and how they came to the relationship was different. And obvious that they both had different experiences. So we wanted to show that. And so as this kind of progressed, the layers grew and grew. And we wanted to show everything, but about the dad and all of that. But there's a lot of layers on there that we had to write into that script. We had to write it in 3 days. So we put it all out in 3 days, and it felt like a weight lifted off when we got that down. Being able to put all of that onto a script and write it in a script in 3 days. It didn't matter if it's 3 days or a month, but yeah, that was a big weight to get lifted. And that was my inspiration for the writing of it.
And I think telling such big stories in a short film, that's such a specific skill, isn't it? To say what you want to say in such a short form is not easy. And to get all those layers in is a challenge. So I'm sure we all think that you achieved it very well, so thank you.
And it was Mikail, he helped so much with that, especially with the editing parts where we had the script, but how do we, that tension between all these layers, how do we capture that and still give the sense of not spoon feeding the audience? We don't give them some clues along the way, and make them think and make them feel these things and go on the journey with them and with the characters. And that was a nice touch, and that's how Mikail put all of that in together as well.
Yeah, I've now watched it 3 times, and every time I watch it, I'm like, a little bit more sort of reveals itself to me in both the writing and the direction, actually. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Let me just sort my notes again.
It was interesting, very well in that. So I as Natasha very kindly said that, but I'm obsessive about exposition in film, because I'm always like, there's a fine line to walk between telling the audience everything, as you say, as Natasha said, spoon feeding them, but giving them enough to understand it. And when one thing we did in post-production, there's a saying that you make 3 films. There's a film you write, the one you shoot, and the one you edit. And in this case, that was actually quite accurate, because the original script, which is a great script, was linear in terms of the storyline. And when we got to post-production, what we did was actually then spliced it up. So then we had a linear cut, and it didn't quite seem to have the emotional punch that we wanted it to. And also it was kind of perhaps giving things a little too easily to the audience. So that's why stuff happens out of order. That's why the timing goes out of place. That's why we really just messed around with it in that way. And hopefully we hit the balance that it's sort of a little bit disorienting, like Amara's life, which is what we're trying to mirror with it, and the personalities, but still clear enough that everyone understood, enough of the sense of it.
Yeah, totally. I think it's the thing with the edit, you can affect the emotion again, and as you say, you could create that feeling of disorientation that a linear script wouldn't allow. So you're adding layers by making the audience uncomfortable in that way, I suppose. I'm going to ask now, we all know, we're preaching to the converted probably, how great it is to work on a set with a mix of deaf and hearing people. But for anyone that doesn't know, talk us through that. How was that for both of you?
Well, as an actor, I mainly work with hearing colleagues on TV shows and on politics and all of that. And so with other shows, typically I'm the only deaf person. Amazon and Netflix, I'm typically the only deaf person. I'm working exclusively with hearing colleagues. And I'm typically the only deaf talent. And so I think that's part of our identity as a person. We have to change to accommodate them every time. We have to make sure that everyone's comfortable, that everyone's taken care of as an actor. We have to play many different hats. I'm used to that, needing to change. But now, with this partnership with Mikail and working with a deaf and hearing mixed team, it gave me such a sense of relief. It opened up to so much learning when we met each other. We met each other halfway versus always accommodating. You know, everyone won in that situation. Everyone was a winner. And then with the multi, we met mainly deaf colleagues, and that is such a win. I mean, that is incredible. It was a mainly deaf group with very few hearing people, because we wanted the hearing people to be able to see, oh my goodness, it's easy working with them. It's easy working with disabled people. It's not that bad. And they were very open-minded, especially with the DP. Had never worked with deaf people before. That was their first time, never even been in that world. But he was motivated. He got down to the work, and he made everything happen with Mikail, with the director, working with the interpreters. And because they understood the script, it was obviously that he had an artistic heart with it, and he was able to catch all of the different nuances that I might not even be able to catch. So it was really fun to see how his skills and his specialties and what I brought to the table and what Mikail brought to the table created something absolutely beautiful. And to be able to say, wow, look at deaf people, look what they can do, we have it, right? I mean, and we can work together, really. I thought that we're not, they were able to say they're not so bad, are they? And working with, being able to have that different perspective, disabled people see things differently than other people. We have an experience from inside that we can bring to the table. We're not suppressing it, and when it comes out, it just can explode and be so incredible. So I want to see more of that balance versus always accommodating and always having one or two people versus, in the masses. If we come to it with equality and with a balance, it's really beautiful.
It's so interesting what you say about, as a deaf person on set, you're having to wear lots of hats. I was literally having this conversation just a few days ago about when you're the only deaf person on set, there's this weight of responsibility that you're like, A, representing a whole community, B, you're there as sort of educator for everyone else, you're there teaching everyone deaf awareness, you're there making sure that the script is accurate, and it's too much. And when you're an actor, you just want to do the acting, and you don't want, why should you have to wear all those hats on set? For the sake of everyone else.
It's exactly that. There's a lot of pressure. Because at the end of the day, when we're done and we're in post-production and you see it on there, if you make mistakes or whatever, it's not the deaf talent, but we get the blame. We get the fingers pointed at us when something goes wrong. They say, "What happened? Why'd you do that?" And it's like, I'm just the actor. How is this? I'm not involved in post-production. Really, when you have access to managers and interpreters that are on set, and that it's their responsibility to watch for these things and check that these things are working. Are the signs on the camera? Where's the wheelchair? If you have someone who's not the actor doing it, it's a lot better. And but when it's just you, there's a lot of pressure. So yeah.
And as a director, did you feel empowered by the fact that you had so many deaf people on set with you, that again, it then doesn't become your responsibility to become an expert? You know what I mean? You've got the people who really have the...
Yeah. No, look, you're completely right. It was brilliant. There was, to be fair, on the multi, there was it's a great thing as someone who, it's a good, I'm mixed race, Muslim, so I am diverse in terms that I have things as prejudice, but I am a straight, fair-skinned man, and that gives me a lot of privilege. And it's very rare that I am in the total minority in that regard on a project. And one of the great things about doing the sort of films that I like to make is you get to be a minority on these projects. You get to do a project where you are, almost everyone is LGBTQIA, and you're the only straight person on it. You get to do a project where the only person. I'm working on one at the moment where I'm currently the only man, in fact, on the entire project. It's entirely female. There might be one or two show up as well, but you got that. And in this one, there was a great, there was a Zoom call we had where I was the only hearing person on it. We had an ASL interpreter on there. And I went, and my ASL is shockingly bad. Natasha's laughing because she remembers this one. And it's really bad. But I thought, well, I got to make an effort, and do that. So when I went and said something, I put my hand up and I said something. And I started signing, and I got a few words in. And I got to a finger spell moment, and my finger spelling is terrible. And I remember
it's getting better.
It is. Thank you. It is getting better. But I remember taking somewhere around what felt like 8 minutes to spell one word, and I saw someone who was clearly looking at their phone instead of looking at what I was doing, and I was like, "We paid for the interpreter. I'm just going to use them for this one." But in all honesty, it was really easy. In both cases, it was really, really easy to do it. It's easier than anyone expects, and again, I bang the drum quite a lot about it, but I want to be very clear. The team that we had, for AIMEE Victoria, Natasha and Stephanie are not sort of hobbyist actors. They have been in a ton of stuff. Natasha she's worked with Ryan Murphy on Netflix. She has been in Amazon programs. She is in the Marvel universe, just to be clear, in case anyone didn't know. So, we've got that. Stephanie has been on Grimm. She's recurring on The Good Fight. These are very successful regular actors who we got in brilliantly to do a brilliant job, professionals. And on the Multi, the team we had, again, it wasn't a bunch of sort of deaf hobbyists who are coming into it. We have DJ works for Warner Brothers. We have Mikail, he's done stuff with Marvel as well. He's a set design for them and things like that. Brian Cole, professional photographer, videographer. These guys are professionals. You'd be lucky to have that level of experience and talent on any team that you're shooting with. They just happen to be deaf, and it requires so little modification to make it work. And you're doing it. And one thing I loved about these two films, slightly different side, is that in neither film did the characters have to be deaf. It was, it's part of the character, and it's part of who they are, and it infuses the story. But it's not a story about a deaf person having a bunch of struggles. They are dealing with the issues that we had, and that I think was borne out by having the team behind it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. I'm just going to check the time. How are we doing? Are we all right? Oh, okay. So we have to wrap up there, I'm afraid. I'm going to ask one last question. How can we support these films going forwards? What's next for you? What should we be looking out for? Anything you want to tell us?
Me. Oh, you. Okay. What's next? I'm writing more. Writing more scripts. TV pilots I'm working on. I'm working on a TV pilot script at the minute. And remember what else? Come on, help me out.
Yeah, BFI.
I'm doing a lot of auditions. I'm working a lot in advocacy in the US, especially with youth, BIPOC youth, and deaf students, and adults and young adults at Gallaudet University, a partnership called Am I Less? Am I Next? Sorry, to clarify, and Am I Next? And so it'll be a museum display at the autumn of next year, 2022. So I've got a director from this film, myself, and we are both writing an amazing examples of the experiences of these people. The lived experience of the museum. And so these will be in the museum, and it will be representing Black, deaf community. So it's a really big project. It's huge. A lot of excitement around it. And as an advocate for that, but also I'm writing and going to auditions and working on other things. I have one thing, but I can't say it. I'm under an NDA, so apologies. That one's not coming out today.
No BFI exclusive today, then. Anything else you want to add?
So I'm hoping to, well, I should say, so AIMEE Victoria actually been very lucky. It's been selected for 22 film festivals. It's gone around, it's had a brilliant run. It's already won 2 awards, in fact. We have a couple more film festivals coming up. The Multi has got into, it just screened in Austin this weekend. There are 2 film festivals which we're not allowed to say yet.
We can't say anything about that.
We're not allowed to say what they are, but one of them is one of the top indie festivals in the world. So we're really excited about that one. So it's really cool. And it's coming up next year. So really pleased about that. On AIMEE Victoria, developing it into a feature film. We actually have, in fact, in the audience, Stevie Campbell and Norma Bailey of Studio 57, who are going to be collaborating with on that one, hopefully as well. So developing that into a feature, and then I've got a few things on. We're going back to the features that I've got. I'm currently in pre-production on a film, which is, again, like I said, with a majority female team. It's written, created, and directed by women. It's a short film, which is a proof of concept. If anybody wants to support it, there will be a crowdfund campaign to get the last of the money next year, and it can be on Instagram. If anyone can follow myself and Natasha on Instagram, we're always posting about those things. I think our handles are on the thing, but you can also Google both of us and find us there. I'm attached to direct an elevated horror next year, which is it's early stage of development, but I'm hoping works out because it's going to be in Jamaica, and that will be brilliant.
Amazing. You guys are busy.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I wanted to geek out about subtitles now, but we'll have to take that
We
conversation
do need to talk about that because I was very impressed with the subtitles.
Thank you. So everyone, thank you so much for coming. Let's carry on the conversation over a drink and a round of applause again, please.